завтра сразу. Dear ladies and gentlemen, let's gradually get seated. We have 1 minute before the start, but we can gradually be prepared. Distinguished Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Yerle Karajan. I will be today your moderator for this very important event within the auspices of the United Nations Environment Assembly, 7. Thank you very much for hosting this. Thank you very much for hosting this event today, and I'm very happy to introduce. It's a pleasure to welcome you to this high-level side event on drying of seas, land lakes, a global catastrophe of the 21st century. This event is jointly organized by the Ministry of Ecology and Natural Resources of the Republic of Kazakhstan, together with the Central Asia Climate Foundation, which I represent, which is the project office for Central Asia on climate change and green energy, and the International Water Management Institute. Today we shall focus on practical and innovative solutions, drawing on lessons from Central Asia and the the Caspian and the Aral Seas, Lake Chad, and the other water bodies, and discuss how these experiences can inform regional and global action. Allow me to introduce a brief overview of our format. We will begin with an opening of high-level remarks, followed by a plenary panel, where a discussion featuring distinguished international organizations and experts. With this, I would like to give a floor for the opening remarks to His Excellency Mr. Mansur Oshorbayev, Vice Minister of Ecology and Natural Resources of the Republic of Kazakhstan. Please.
Your Excellencies, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. For Kazakhstan, it is a great honor to host this official side event on the emergence of UNEP 7. The presence of such high-level guests, along with numerous representatives of international organizations and governments, highlights the importance of this topic, which is becoming one of the main environmental issues on the 21st century. We deeply appreciate that you have taken the time to participate in this discussion, which is directly related to regional sustainability and human security. The drying of seas and lakes is not a local or regional issue. It is a global trend affecting all continents. We see this in Central Asia, where the tragedy of the Aral Sea has become a symbol of large-scale environmental loss. We observe the decline of the Caspian Sea, which impacts 5 countries. We are aware of the almost vanished Lake Chad in Africa, Lake Turkana in Kenya, Lake Urmia in Iran, and other water bodies whose fates mirror out our own challenges. Despite different geographies, the causes are similar: climate change, pressure on water resource, and ecosystems disruption. This is why our discussion today goes far beyond national and regional examples. It addressed a question that is becoming strategic for many countries. Can we preserve water ecosystems under rapid climate change, and what will happen to our security, economies, and resilience if we do not? Central Asia is one of the regions where the processes have appeared earlier and more strongly than elsewhere. If we do not learn to prevent the degradation of water resources, similar crises will repeat around the world. But Central Asia is not only an example of the consecutions, it is also a source of solutions. Our experience in restoring the Northern Aral Sea, our efforts in monitoring the Caspian Sea, and our work on transboundary water coordination can be useful for many regions worldwide. Therefore, sharing knowledge between regions is not merely an academic interest. It is a matter of collective adaptation that affects the resilience of entire countries. Last year, Kazakhstan and France organized the One Water Summit in Saudi Arabia, an important international event that becomes the basis for the Global One Water Vision initiative. This initiative brings together scientists, international organizations, and space agency around a common approach. Water is a single system, and it must be managed based on science, ecosystem, understanding, and international coordination. For regions like Central Asia, where rivers and seas cross borders, this approach is vital. Any solution in one country affects the resilience of the entire region. Today, dialogue is an important part of the large international process. Its conclusions and proposals will contribute to the preparation of the Regional Ecological Summit, which Kazakhstan will host in April 2026, where Central Asia and Caspian countries will work on a coordinated agenda on water, climate, and ecosystems. These ideas will then be presented at the UN Water Conference 2026 in the United Arab Emirates, a platform designed to define global water solution for the coming years. We face a shared challenge to develop approach that prevents the emergency of new disappearing water bodies. To achieve this, we need three key elements: integrated water management that accounts for climate risk, active use of natural-based solutions, such as wetland and forest restorations, and most importantly, transboundary cooperation and political will. Water knows no borders, and is sustainability dependent of joint action. Dear colleagues, I would like to express my deep gratitude to all distinguished guests for their participation, attention, and the readiness to work together. Kazakhstan is firmly committed to contributing to the global water agenda from UNEP 7 to the Regional Ecological Summit and the UN Water Conference 2026. The drying of seas and lakes is a challenge of global nature, but is through global cooperation that we have a real chance to change the course of events. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Oshurbayev. Indeed, this is a very big challenge for all of us, and today we'll have some cases of Central Asia and Africa on how we can tackle the challenge of environment and on all the climate change agenda. Drying of seas and lakes is indeed a big story for us. And with this, I would like to give a floor to Ms. Inger Andersen, who is the UN Under Secretary General, Executive Director of UNEP. Please.
Thank you very much, and welcome, and warm welcome to Nairobi. The Aral Sea, Lake Chad, Qinghai Lake, Lake Urmia, Great Salt Lake, Ponyang Lake, Lake Popo, I could go on, because these are all lakes that are drying. Drying in part because of over-extraction, drying in part because of climate change. And some of them are catastrophic. And this is part of why I'm so pleased to be here today to speak to you on this critical issue. And I want to thank our Kazakhstan colleagues for bringing this event about. When we speak about these issues of drying lakes and seas at the 7th session of the United Nations Environment Assembly, it is critical. It is critical because this is important. We, humanity, have relied on the hydrological cycle, on its regularity. We assume that we can plant our seeds at the right time, precisely because we know from generations that the rains will come just then, and that the water will rise just then. And that is the basis upon which we plan our lives and the cadence of our harvests. And now we are seeing those very lakes shrinking and that predictability being taken away. And so, as we heard from His Excellency Vice Minister, it is critical that we have a global conversation about climate change and, yes, about the politically charged issue of over-abstraction. The destruction of ecosystems, particularly forests and vegetated wetlands, is also disrupting atmospheric moisture flows, those rivers in the sky that we have become used to relying on. And the competition for water and pollution of water is then depleting even more water resources. And nowhere is this more visible than when we talk about dying and drying seas and lakes. We know that over 50% of the world's large lakes and reservoirs have shrunk since 1990. That's a very short period where this has happened, and the impact on people is massive. Roughly 2 billion people live in the basins of large lakes that are losing water. We are here on the African continent, and Minister rightly mentioned Lake Chad and Lake Turkana. Here in Kenya, Lake Turkana. Now, Lake Chad has shrunk by around 90% since its height in 1960. And that fuels community conflict and hunger and failed harvests and complexity in a country that is already stressed by poverty. And so when we look at the Aral Sea that has wiped out tens of thousands of fishing jobs and turned a vast area into salt flats. And the reality is that if we do not collaborate, if we do not step into this space and begin to discuss, then what will come will be worse. By the end of this century, and I hope not, Minister, but if we do not take action, the Caspian Sea, which is the largest enclosed water body on this beautiful planet, could, I hope not, plummet by 18 meters. And that, of course, would have catastrophic impacts on the communities and, frankly, on global climate. And so without urgent action, 700 million people could be displaced in the world by water scarcity by 2030. And that could lead to other destabilizing impacts on policies, politics, and communities and nations, and the consequent humanitarian impacts. But here's the thing, this is not inevitable. This is something we can actually do something about. We can, with urgent and unified action, we can cut our emissions on CO2, we can manage our water wisely, we can reach across the border and collaborate, we can invest in nature-based solutions, we can secure these lifelines for future generations. And we are seeing collaborative arrangements in place. I celebrate the collaborative engagement of the Lake Chad Commission, an underfunded commission that needs support by member states to ensure, by the global community to ensure that it can stand. And we are seeing the Tehran Convention, again, a convention that seeks to work on the environment pertaining to the Caspian Sea. Understanding, dialogue, engagement, working on climate projections, climate modeling, that is important. That is why we celebrate the Regional Ecological Summit that Kazakhstan will host in April 2026. It offers an opportunity for deeper dialogue, further exchanges, knowledge sharing, and learning together, and understanding what are the pushes and pulls and how can we best find solutions to what is essentially a climate crisis. We're also proud of having been engaged with the Baku Dialogue on Water for Climate Action, which emerged out of the COP29 and into COP30 as a vital collaboration platform with now 23 nation states and 25 non-nation actors involved. We at UNEP are proud to have hosted the Water for Climate initiative, which we are hosting together with the COP presidencies, Azerbaijan and Brazil. And of course, my dear friend and colleague from the United Nations Economic Commissions for Europe and with the World Meteorological Organization, working on this together is really critical, placing nature and the right to a healthy environment and access to water and sanitation at the heart of a collaborative approach. And so, in this respect then, we are pleased to see some real progress being made. I want to mention India, where we saw the country-led, they called it the Freshwater Challenge, that aims to restore 300,000 square kilometers, 300,000 kilometers of rivers and 350 million hectares of wetlands by 2030. They set themselves this target and they are now working on it. And the Global Wetlands Watch and the Freshwater Ecosystem Explorer data platforms monitor lakes and wetlands and rivers in near real time, and I encourage you all to visit their websites and to understand more about that work, because this work will highlight what is happening to prevent the next Lake Chad or indeed the next Aral Sea catastrophe. So friends, we must build now to make that real progress, including at the next United Nations Water Conference. We have to elevate integrated action on water across the many conventions, including the 3 Rio conventions, climate, biodiversity, and desertification. And we have to take an urgent economy-wide approach and an urgent reaching across the border or across the community approach to talk, to collaborate, to find ways forward that the water that we have, which might get scarcer, that we share it in a smart way. Regional and global cooperation is therefore critical, as many of our water bodies span those borders, and I celebrate the Tehran Convention, which we are honored to host, and I celebrate, as I mentioned, the Lake Chad Basin Commission. These are the kind of solutions that we need to push. And I hope very much that we can turn this global drying trend around. We need political will, community engagement, long-term thinking. Then we can bring those shrinking waters back from the brink. Because when I look at the list of drying lakes, it is a long list. And it includes lakes here in this country and on this continent and way, way beyond. And we have to find a way that we support those communities so that they can live in harmony with people and planet. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Indeed, a very important note which underlines the challenges that we are going to face facing today already. This is a very strong message that we need to collaborate indeed. With this, I would like to invite our next speaker for the welcoming remarks. Her Excellency, Ms. Tatiana Molchan. You already been mentioned. UN Under Secretary General, Executive Secretary of the UNEP. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dear colleagues and friends, as Inger has mentioned, excellencies, it's really a pleasure to be today here. And let me start by thanking, first of all, the organizers, the ministry, but all the authorities of Kazakhstan, and also our host, UNEP, for bringing this topic to UNEA and for discussions, because you both mentioned how important this is and how this is not only a situation or single or in one region, that we have all over the world drying lakes that have become a symbol of a rapidly changing climate and mounting pressure on ecosystems. And this is, I think this is one of the most urgent environment challenge of this century. And in a way, this event today provides a good opportunity to bring global awareness to the scale and severity of the crisis, yes. The experience from around the world demonstrate that while each region, and like in this particular case in Central Asia, has its unique circumstances, the underlying drivers and impacts are deeply interconnected. They also show that effective responses require cooperation across borders, sectors, and disciplines. And let me start by underlying really the situation that we have seen in Central Asia. And I think this experience offers important lessons for all of us. The dramatic decline of the Aral Sea is a powerful, really powerful reminder of the consequences of the unsustainable use of water. The recent steady decline in the levels of Lakes Balkhash and Isyk-Kul is a warning sign. But also, we see in the region that some progress, or the region itself has shown progress, or at least slowing down the degradation. And we see that it is possible when countries work together, guided by science, and you, Deputy Minister, underlined this in particular, but also supported by communities. Water-saving ecosystems restoration, sustainable land management, and targeted investments have produced meaningful results. And these examples can inform efforts in other regions facing similar threats. A core message, I think, that is from today's event is we need an integrated approach, water, climate, ecosystem solutions, including stronger water-saving efforts. We need efficient technologies, such as modern irrigation, leakage control, and digital monitoring, but as well policies that promote water conservation and fair allocation. We do support, UNEP does support these efforts in Central Asia, our Nexus assessment in Sirdarya Basin, and helps countries balance water, energy, and ecosystem needs in a coordinated way. We have facilitated 85 million euros of investments and grants for the automatization of the Western Great Canal and supported development of the water balance methodology in Tajikistan. Under the new IKI-funded Nexus project, we are supporting the development of the river basin management plans in Kazakhstan, national water quota methodology in Uzbekistan, and exploring rainwater harvesting at the regional level. So this is examples of joint, coordinated, but also integrated approaches on how this challenge can be addressed. A second point, and I'm looking also at our colleague Mosonda from the Ramsar Convention, and I think she would support a lot this, nature-based solutions are really essential auxiliary tool for water saving. Wetland restoration, reforestation, sustainable rangeland greening riverbanks remain really among the most effective ways to improve water retention, boost climate resilience, and reduce land degradation. but they also support biodiversity and local livelihoods. We have started several pilot projects, or several pilots, I would say, in Central Asia to demonstrate the potential of nature-based solutions. Also, we are starting development of a regional catalog of nature-based solutions to facilitate the wide application in the region. My third point is, of course, about cooperation not only among or in the country, but transboundary cooperation, including joint monitoring, data sharing, and exchange of good practices. And this is really key to ensure protection and restoration of shared waters and ecosystem. Again, UNEP Water Convention offers this platform for strengthening such cooperation and developing effective basin-level arrangements which rely on strong science for sound decision-making. And among the activities, among the platforms that we have in the region in Central Asia, it's a long-standing support to the Two Talas Commission and capacity building on water allocation. And with that, I would like to say that we support a lot, and we see a continuation of these discussions also at the Regional Ecological Summit that is to take place in April 2026 in Kazakhstan at the initiative of the President of Kazakhstan. And I'm very pleased because this I see also as a continuation of the good discussion which were, and I had the pleasure of attending and participating of the One Water Summit, yes, in Riyadh. For us, I think we will partner with our colleagues, with our UN entities, but will in particular focus on two topics which are highly relevant for today's discussions. First, it's a regional focus on nature-based solution to address water, climate, ecosystems challenges, and the second is a regional environmental performance review. An initiative that would provide the first forward-looking multi-country assessment. So unlike our previous practice when it was focused on one country, this time we'll have a multi-country assessment of environmental governance across Central Asia. And it will build really on the many national reviews carried out for the countries of the region in the past decades. And we really hope that these very practical instruments would help to bring progress and will help the countries identify gaps, accelerate reforms, and first, most of all, form the basis for a coordinated and guided regional action to this critical issue that we are discussing today. Thank you once again, and let me underline that international partnerships are key, and adequate financing is also important to scale up these efforts, and UNEP, together with our different tools and platforms and instruments such as the multilateral environmental agreements, not only on water but also on industrial accidents or the Aarhus and Espoo Convention, we can provide all the support needed to make sure that this is a sustainable solution that we are building today. Thank you once again, and looking forward for the good discussions of today's event. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Malchan. Drying of seas and lakes is indeed a global issue. We see various regional cases when there are some successes and where they are not. I'm sure that our next speaker, the Secretary General of the Convention on Wetlands, Her Excellency Dr. Musonda Mumba, will share your views on what we can do. Please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Your Excellency Deputy Minister Yerland, for the invitation. Inga, congratulations on the 7th session of UNEA. Thank you very much, Tatiana. It's such an honor to be here because I remember when I was young, my father was an avid collector of National Geographics. And one day, the magazine comes home, it comes in the post, and it has this boat stranded on the ground. And I thought, what is the story here? And I started to read, and it was about the Aral Sea. But I was young and I didn't get it. And then last year, for the first time, I went to Bukhara in Uzbekistan. And we drove to Tadiku Lake. And as we were driving, I was quite exhausted and I took a nap. And I woke up and I saw this white dust coming in the direction of the car because the car had stopped. And I asked the driver, what's going on? He says, well, because this is part of the Southern Aral, and it's dry, and this is the salt that's rising. Colleagues, when lakes and seas die, we're dying too. Because our existence, as Inga alluded to, is really foundationally around the hydrological cycle. When indigenous peoples talked about sky rivers, and when Johan Rockström, through the Global Commission on the Economics of Water, did that pictorial depiction of the hydrological cycle, the weaving of these lines that these indigenous peoples have talked about, thanks to satellite imagery, you begin to see how we are all connected, wonderfully and beautifully connected. As the Convention on Wetlands, the oldest and most experienced multilateral environmental agreement, born in 1971 in Iran, in Ramsar, but not far from Tehran, a city that's also running out of water. We begin to see how the science also matters, which is why on the margins of AMSEN this July here in Nairobi, we also launched our Global Wetland Outlook, which talked about what does it cost to lose that wetland? What is the cost of just that diminishing and disappearance? And even when we talk money, usually that's also a very much an underestimate. Massive. How can we estimate the quality of just not having the white dust? What is the value of that? The millions and trillions that we actually talk about, I don't even think that they are really quite enough. And this is why I think the innovation matters. And that's why I'm so excited, because when I was at the One Water Summit in Riyadh as well, I was so blown away. I was so blown away when these examples were shared about experiences and also the conversations about how do we innovate, how do we rethink how we manage water, which is why us as a convention, we're extremely happy that we're involved in the 2026 UN Water Conference. Why? Because most of our wetlands are interconnectors. 2,500 plus of them all over the world. And this year in June, I signed a memorandum of intent for the Convention and the European Space Agency together to really also use, innovations like Earth observations. Lake Titicaca, it is our highest and most remotest in the Andean. Very difficult to get to, but with spatial data, we can actually see what extent of shrinkage is actually happening, at what rate, so that the decision-making capability is supported. And that's why we're working with UNEP, UNDP, ECE, and UN Water Convention, many other partners together. Financing, and I think they all alluded to this, is absolutely critical. When I started as Secretary General at the convention in 2022, I remember arriving and having come from UNEP and realized, my goodness, there is so many GEF projects and GCF, et cetera, and all of that. But when I spoke to our contracting parties, 173 of them, they said, actually, we just hear that Ramsar is mentioned in a GEF project or in a GCF project on a wetland. Now, what's been amazing is the setting up of a help desk for countries, even in our convention, so they can understand what do these multilateral funds mean, who can they partner with at the country, even at the transboundary level. Lastly, but not the least, I just want to say that I'm very excited that IMI is involved in this because they're one of our international organization partners of the convention, including IUC and WWF and many others. I want to highlight one thing. When we met in Dushanbe in May at the International Glacier Conservation Conference, you begin to realize that the drying of seas and lakes is also connected to what's happening in the cryosphere. Our mountains are drying, and when I saw pictures of the mountains in Central Asia with black soot, the actual deglaciation is happening fast. So how do we make sure that these connections are taken into account? I want to close by saying that we're entering very interesting territory. Right now, as the world meets here and is talking about very exciting and interesting stuff, I've been following a lot for over a year and a half now, the issue of AI. We're all very excited, clicking, ChatGPT, DeepSeek, my children love it. But I'm like, okay, hang on. Do we even know where the water is coming from to actually cool those data centers? And most of the data centers are in arid zones. Whilst we have dried and pretty much let lakes die because of how our obstructive behavior, we're already creating another wicked problem of over-abstracting clean water, mostly fresh water, to actually cool down the very clicking we're doing. And with wetlands and lake systems dying. So how do we rethink the innovations? How do we challenge the Googles, the Amazons, et cetera, and partner with us, because they need to be in these spaces too. because water usage is across the board, everywhere, economic, social, environmental. And so I'm really excited to be here and really looking forward to the discussions, and I hope that we can rethink our relationship with water and how we work. Thank you very much. Rahmat.
Dr. Mumba, can you please remain on stage, if I may? Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite all the high-level opening remarks participants to the stage, if I may. Mr. Mansour Shurbayev, please. Miss Inger Anderson, if I may. Tatiana Molchan, please. No, just to stand up. I just wanted to say, I would like to address you guys for some warm applause to the participants for very strong messages, for understanding the agenda, understanding that the challenges there are, for their leadership, for their teams, and with our wishes that they are successful. This is good for all of us. Thank you very much. As we move on, I would like to now introduce the next session. Thank you very much. Which is a plenary discussion on the topics that we are facing today. Indeed, very strong agenda that we have to discuss. Today we are focusing on concrete experiences of Aral Sea and the Caspian Seas, the Lake Chad, the African cases that we heard today, the stories of transboundary cooperation, which are indeed in high demand. Questions of financing, we heard of them today. Nature-based solutions, these are something which can offer some good, successful outcomes for what we do. And the upcoming regional initiatives, including the Regional Ecological Summit in 2026 in Central Asia and the UN Water Conference in 2026 in UAE. I would like to invite the participants of the next session, if I may. First is Mr. Victor Vasquez. He is the Senior Water and Sanitation Specialist, World Bank. Water investments and financing mechanisms are the biggest story. I would like to invite Dr. Sophie Jaffe. She is the permanent observer of IUCN to the United Nations, Nature-Based Solutions and Synergy with UNEP, which is the subject here today. His Excellency Mr. Ashat Orazbay, who is the chairman of the Executive Committee of the International Fund for Saving the Aral Sea. Regional cooperation in Central Asia is an important subject. We are also expecting that Her Excellency Ms. Barbara Pompili will join us for this event later on. Hopefully that she will manage to be safe and sound to this panel. She's the Ambassador of Environment of France, and we'll talk on water, on One Water Summit. And we also have a representative, if I may, from the Ministry of Environment of Nigeria, the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Do we have a representative? Please. If a representative is here, we're expecting for a name, come join us to the panel. Thank you. I would like to start this discussion with a question to Mr. Victor Vasquez from the World Bank. From the perspective of an international financial institution, which types of investment and financing instruments have the greatest potential to support the nature-based solutions and climate-resilient water infrastructure in the regions affected by the drying of lakes and seas? If you could share your thoughts. Sorry? Okay, could you also share examples of successful projects or approaches that combine ecosystem restoration, community resilience, and sustainable economic development in water-stressed regions? So, yeah, indeed. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the invitation to this important event. So the World Bank, as you may know, together with other international financial institutions, has different financing instruments. We have traditional investment project financing, where we finance activities, inputs. We have results-based financing, where we disburse based on results. We have development policy lending, where we promote reforms and governance. And then many others that I will quote. But the message here is that the problems we try to solve and that we hear in the openings are complex. So we usually need a combination of those instruments, depending on the context and the challenges we try to solve. We have to finance hard infrastructure, large infrastructure, expensive infrastructure, but often combined with nature-based solutions, landscape management, landscape restoration, more community-based actions, livelihood supports. So we apply a different range of, or combination of these instruments depending on the problems we want to solve in the different context. For example, on large infrastructure, we usually try to promote PPPs and bring the private sector. And the World Bank offers risk mitigation instruments as political insurance, political risk insurance, or partial guarantees from MIGA or from the World Bank to de-risk those investments and those PPPs. We manage a wide range of trust funds as well that leverage our investments or operations. These are usually either global trust funds like the Global Transboundary Waters Facility hosted by the World Bank, or regional ones like the Cooperation for International Waters in Africa, or the Central Asia Water and Energy Program, or the Danube Program. They usually bring knowledge and promote knowledge exchange, bring expertise, and then bring cooperation and promotes platforms of collaboration in those agendas, because usually these are transboundary nature. And then there are other instruments related to bonds, blue, green bonds, links to emissions, reductions, could be crowdsourcing instruments, and so on. And in terms of examples, I think on the RLC, there's an example where a large infrastructure helped mitigate the problem in 2005, the Kok Aral Dam, that really restored fisheries and livelihoods, and then linked to other landscape restoration and softer interventions with promote livelihoods. In Lake Chad, I think we started with a very deep modeling exercise to really try to understand the drivers of those challenges, reducing the water lakes, and that led to a program this time on agriculture efficiency to really work on the demand side and really work on the potential that we could have from saving of water as a contribution to enhancing the lakes, the level of the lakes. And then this led to another, and I finish with this, but like our latest generation of operations, what we call MPAs, which are multi-phases approaches. I mean, these are a series of projects that link one to another, either in time or in a region. And an example is the one where I work on in the Horn of Africa, which really brings another kind of innovative dimension, which is to focus on the hidden part of that equation, which is groundwater. And trying to understand with a Seaward Trust Fund the linkages between groundwater and surface water, trying to understand the recharge areas and how we can protect them and promote them, working with communities on low-scale water enhancement, water harvesting infrastructures, or larger scale management aquifer recharge, trying to find win-win solutions, for example, in the area of Dirdawa in Ethiopia, where it's an area where the aquifer is being depleted through a transboundary transfer to Djibouti and also massive use in that urban area. But at the same time, there are flash floods in those valleys. So trying to find those areas that are permeable, trying to retain the water in that areas, reducing the flash flood chances, but then promoting the infiltration to enhance the groundwater levels, and then exploring those linkages in terms of the potential of conjunctive use and really as a resilience strategy. So you can use surface water in wet seasons and then use the potential of that hidden reservoir underground in dry seasons. So, and this is in the countries of Somalia, Ethiopia, and Kenya. It's just the first phase, and there is also exploitation of groundwater at low scale, just domestic use, rural, and a little bit of irrigation. As we develop the knowledge agenda of groundwater, which is very complex, and those linkages with surface water, we will be ready in a second phase to exploit water in a much more high rate and sustainable manner. So, and again, and this has to link with those challenges at the lakes and seas, because groundwater and surface water are related and linked. So yeah, thanks. That's a summary of our
Thank you very much. This is very important. We have a series of options in terms of financing, and indeed we hope that we grab those opportunities facing the challenges that we have with the drying of lakes and seas. In these regards, I would like to welcome Ms. Barbara Pompili. Thank you very much. I hope you safely came to us. Excellency, One Water Summit, co-chaired by France and Kazakhstan in 2024, helped launch a global dialogue on integrated water resources management. How can the One Water vision help to contribute to a more coherent international response to and managing the drying of seas and lakes? So maybe you could advise, and in your view, what are the most promising avenues for cooperation between Central Asia, Africa, and other regions to promote international ecosystem-based water governance?
Hello, thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here with you today and to be invited by Kazakhstan almost precisely 1 year after the One Water Summit. We organized together to raise opportunities and solutions for water resiliency. And I see my friend Zulfia here. We had a great time together to prepare this big event. And our great collaboration itself showcased how important cooperation across regions is to find the best solutions to sustainable water resources management and preservation. Successive, and I think you mentioned it earlier, IPCC reports have repeatedly warned of increasing water insecurity under the effect of climate change. And in fact, climate change is altering the entire cycle of water, the water cycles, and the impacts are felt in all sectors. Water is a daily preoccupation across the world, whether it regards excessive waters and floods, pollution, or unsafe water quality or scarcity and droughts. Lakes and wetlands act as natural buffers that regulate climate, reduce temperatures, extremes, and store carbon. Their degradation removes essential nature infrastructure, and restoring and protecting them should therefore be recognized as a core climate adaptation and mitigation strategy. I had the chance to be welcomed in Kazakhstan by preparing this One Water Summit by my friend Zulfia, and we went to the Aral Sea, where the on-site consequences of a drying sea are dramatically concrete. It was also very inspiring to see the mobilization of the population to implement nature-based solutions there to fight those consequences. And first, let me highlight that to address current and future challenges, we have no choice but to improve our water policies at all levels, taking into account the need to preserve the ecological stability and the water ecosystems. 2 years ago, you know that UNEP adopted a crucial resolution on strengthened water policies to face the triple planetary crisis. This resolution provides clear guidance to accelerate integrated water resource management, which remains a cornerstone clearly of resilient water governance. From my point of view, programmatic and cross-sectorial management is the key answer to the challenges. The necessary steps to be implemented are conciliation of water usage, preservation of ecosystem stability, prevention and reduction of the risk, and sharing of the available resources among all actors at the basin level. We cannot staying in our side without cooperating. It's not possible anymore. Then I will stress that diverse tools do exist to support the implementation of this integrated approach and to enhance global water resilience. I am very glad to mention, you mentioned it, the One Water vision, indeed. We know how essential monitoring and assessing the availability of resources is to develop an adequate water governance. Data and knowledge on the resource can support resource efficiency, risk prevention and reduction, adaptation and resilience across sectors, and most of all, cooperation and dialogue on shared resources. This is why one of our key results at the One Water Summit was this launch of this One Water Vision Coalition, and it contributes to a more coherent international response because it supports access to data and use of technologies for space observation and remote sensing to support water management at the basin level. This initiative was launched together with the World Meteorological Organization and the International Network for Basin Organization, and it is now running in France with one of our institutes, the INRAE. We now need to facilitate its scale-up because we already see its concrete benefits. It is one of the deliverables of the One Water Summit. We have others. We are working on them to be part of the upcoming water conference in Abu Dhabi in December 2026, where I hope we will work on concrete implementation on the ground of water cooperation and good water management. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Madame Pompili, thank you very much. I would like just to wish you and all your colleagues all the success because we indeed are facing big challenges. I would like to address with this, I'm sure that our colleagues here, the other panelists, can also contribute with your own thoughts. Dr. Sophie Jaffe, you from IUCN, you are the permanent observer to the United Nations, and you yesterday convened an event which was on the first day, and could you also briefly share the key messages, any thoughts or trends, any insights which you think are important and you can share for today's discussion?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on this panel today. We did indeed organize an event yesterday, just in the other room, on transboundary water cooperation. It was together with the European Union, Finland, Slovenia, and UNEP. And the event was really a good and fruitful discussion. Some of the things, of course, the key messages would be nothing new to the people in this room, that we need urgent action, as Ambassador Pompei said, on accelerating cooperation, accelerating transboundary water cooperation. It's not possible to achieve SDG 6 more broadly unless we get back on track with this target. And overall, sustainable management of water resources is not going to take place unless we increase the share of transboundary basins that have some form of agreement in place on their use. And you mentioned, moderator, groundwater. It's often also a forgotten topic in this, and transboundary water cooperation tends to perhaps overtly focus on rivers and their shared use, but it is essential that we bring into this discussion groundwater as well, as my colleague from the World Bank mentioned. The event highlighted that transboundary water cooperation can sometimes be politically difficult, and in this regard emphasized the importance of water diplomacy, as well as involving all stakeholders. We had a really good speaker who talked about indigenous people's role, and a person from the floor mentioned the role of youth. And this is really essential. So yes, transboundary water cooperation is sometimes difficult because for political reasons that need to be solved at a higher level, sometimes with the help of external mediators. But often it's also an issue of capacity and building that skill of negotiating and managing the use of shared waters at all levels is essential, and something that IUCN has been doing in various parts of the world for a long time, and I will talk a bit more about that in our work in Central Asia later. Being an IUCN event, of course, we talked a lot about ecosystem management and the integration of ecosystem action, how it needs to be rooted in data, which has been mentioned a lot about here already today. Various speakers have mentioned innovative use of data, and that came up in our event as well. And lastly, of course, the issue of financing came up, and the fact that it needs to be sustained. So it's very difficult to do long-term sustainable transboundary water cooperation on short-term project financing. So this is, again, nothing new. Everybody's heard this before. But being stuck in these project cycles is of course, challenging for the organizations and governments who are implementing the work on the ground. I would also like to just jump upon what Ambassador Pompei said about the UN Water Conference, really having to it has to be this pivotal moment to deliver change and transformative change on global water policy. And one conference cannot solve everything, but I think we all can recognize that water has kind of been a bit marginal in the global policy agenda compared to some of the other environmental issues. And I think we need to seize that moment and create something that goes beyond the 26th conference that would allow for countries to keep coming together to discuss these issues. So thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. Dr. Jaffe, Mr. Vasquez, Madame Pompili, it was indeed very interesting to yet again understand that these issues are very global and we are facing them on a day-to-day basis. We have today very important guests as well. I'm told that Ms. Abiola Awe Edith, who is representing the Ministry of Environment, the Federal Ministry of Environment from Nigeria, Director on Climate Change. Thank you for joining us today. I would like to address to you with a question, if you could maybe briefly outline the key issues and challenges that you are facing with Lake Chad, and what is really happening there, and what can be done.
Thank you very much. I want to appreciate everyone on the panel. I've listened and very interesting. I also want to bring the perspective of Nigeria as it relates to the Lake Chad. The Lake Chad has been something that has been on the front burner when it comes to climate change, when it comes to related issues of climate change, migration, security, all encompassing as a result of the issues around the Lake Chad. You have had issues of gender, women, children, all affected by the shrinking of the Lake Chad. And the Lake Chad, you know, is not just centered affecting Nigeria. It also has countries bordering around it that are also affected. So you find resources that are shrinking and competition for those resources, then leading to security issues. But for us within Nigeria, Nigeria has developed strategic and national framework around this to address these issues. There is existing a commission that addresses the issues of the Lake Chad. But the approach to addressing the challenges that arise from the shrinking of the Lake Chad is approached from an interministerial approach, where you have relevant ministries, departments, and agencies all around the table to address this. The country has the National Climate Change Response Strategy that provides a framework for comprehensive and strategic approaches on aspects of adaptation, mitigation, technology, exploring, financing, public education, and awareness. This serves to help the government know how to strengthen the climate and disaster risk management to develop related policies. The national strategies for Lake Chad Basin focuses on multi-sectoral approaches to ensuring peace around the Lake Chad, resilience and development, also addressing the climate impact around them, making it youth inclusive, gender, addressing food security, as I mentioned, and also the insecurity around there. And also, it also aims at integrating long-term development, restoring services, and also empowering the women to improve infrastructure and promote sustainable resource management. In addition, building community resilience through National Adaptation Plan. Right. At this point, I should mention that Nigeria has successfully completed her readiness for a National Adaptation Plan, seeking to move to another phase where we've identified gaps within the National Adaptation Plan to include issues surrounding challenges around the Lake Chad, to address the Lake Chad issues. Like Ambassador mentioned, this is not just a country approach. There's need for a regional strategy. So looking out for all hands on deck, we expect that we should work together to see how we, as a country and as a region, key into programs that are community-driven in promoting inclusive governance around this, and also ensuring social cohesion and local participation, and also create platforms, community platforms, because a bottom-top approach and also a top-bottom approach would also seek to address these issues around the Lake Chad. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. These are important messages in terms of the need for cooperation and joint action. Indeed, not only on regional and local level, but of course on the global. These are the issues that we're also facing there in Kazakhstan and Central Asia. Widely, we have Mr. Ashat Orazbay, who represents the International Foundation for Aral Sea. For more than 30 years, your foundation has been coordinating the efforts for countries in the region and international partners to address the consequences of the Aral Sea catastrophe. In your view, what are the practical projects and initiatives that best illustrate the current climate challenges and modern approaches to adaptation? I know that you have a message to share, so I give the floor to you here. Please. We have some short time, but please. Go ahead.
Right. Good afternoon. First of all, let me express our thanks to organizers, to the Ministry of Environment of Kazakhstan, and to UNEP for hosting us. I think all speakers today already referred to the problem of Aral Sea. That's why I think it would be relevant if I give you more detailed information about what is being done to mitigate negative consequences of this, one of the biggest environmental tragedies of the 20th century for the people living in the basin of Aral Sea and for the Central Asian region as a whole. It is significant that such a high-level global event within the UN system highlighted the drying of the Aral Sea and Caspian Sea. The discussions here will fit into the regional environmental summit and also the summit of the heads of states of members of Aral, the International Fund to Save Aral Sea, which will take place in April next year in Astana in Kazakhstan. The scale of this largest ecological catastrophe of the 20th century, the Aral crisis, is known worldwide. I will not enumerate all consequences, but it is worth mentioning that only 10% of the original water body remains, now largely located in Kazakhstan and known as in Kazilorda region of Kazakhstan and known as Northern Aral Sea or Small Aral. In 1993, heads of 5 Central Asian countries, namely Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan, established International Fund for Saving the Aral Sea to address the ecological crisis and improve the socio-economic conditions in the Aral Sea basin. Over the past 32 years, our countries, together with international development partners and donors, have implemented programs and projects aimed at mitigation the consequences of this disaster. Currently, the Fourth Action Program for Assistance to the countries of the RLC Basin, which we call a SBP4, and the Regional Environmental Program for Sustainable Development of Central Asia are being implemented and set to be completed by 2030. Implementation of these programs, alongside projects by international development partners and donors, and regional measures across the countries of Central Asia, illustrate significant collaborative efforts and financial investment at both national and regional levels. However, situation remains challenging. It is widely recognized that decline is that restoring the RLC in its original volume is impossible. Water levels continue to decline as inflows depend solely on two major rivers, Amu Darya from the south and Sirdarya River from the north. IFS bodies supported by member states and international partners continue to pursue nature-based solutions aimed at strengthening water and climate resilience to mitigate degradation. Dust, salt, and other harmful substances from the exposed seabed spread across thousands of kilometers, negatively impacting the environment, including accelerating glacier melting in the Pamir, Tian Shan, and other mountain ranges. While afforestation in the Aral region helps, it does not fully resolve the problem. Thus, I would try to be very brief to mention some practical projects which initiated by International Fund for Saving RLC to improve the current situation. Recently, we launched the program Refinement of Hydromodal Zoning and Water Conservation Education for the RLC, financially supported by the French Development Agency, AFD, which we are very sincerely grateful to France. Its goal is to support sustainable transboundary water management in the RLC basin, combining hydromodal and educational components. Activities include adapting irrigation methods through detailed satellite-based crop water requirement analysis at the sub-basin level, as well as raising awareness among children and youth about water conservation. UNICEF also participates in this educational component, and the total program budget is €2 million. In the face of climate change, we are exploring the possibility of revising crop irrigation standards to reduce water consumption and subsequently increase water availability for the RLC. Upon completion of the project, we expect to obtain an updated, analytically verified map of crop water requirements within the RLC basin in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, which will allow to more accurately determine differences in irrigation conditions and water needs at the field level. This will form the basis for developing scientifically sound recommendations for optimizing irrigation rates and more efficient use of water resources in agriculture in the region of Central Asia. Additionally, an interactive tool will be developed to provide access to up-to-date data and enable them to make more informed and strategically sound decisions in irrigation management. In 2025, International Fund for Saving RLC, with the support of the World Bank, launched a grant component of the Regional Electricity Market Interconnectivity and Trade Program in Central Asian countries, with a total budget of $145 million. While energy issues are a new mandate for IFS, given that hydroelectricity accounts for over 95% of energy in the upper reaches of Amudari and Sardinia rivers, we intend to give this sector greater attention. Currently, IFS member states and World Bank are preparing a multi-phase program on improving water use efficiency in Central Asia, with a working group formed to launch regional projects on priority water issues. We also are very actively cooperating with German Society for International Cooperation, GIZ, which are co-financing from the European Union in the amount of more than 20 million American dollars on climate responsive water management in Central Asia. One of the important projects also include the Nexus program on water, energy and land management in Central Asia, implemented by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, UNEP, FAO, and our Scientific Information Center, which amounts about 20 million euro. So there are some other also projects which I don't want to take your time. I just want to say in conclusion that exchanging both positive and negative experiences is essential, as environmental threats in the 21st century will only grow. Examples include the Caspian Sea, already mentioned several times, Lake Urmia in Iran, Chad in Africa, and others. Ecosystems are interconnected, and the main goal of this side event today is to promote global dialogue and present regional cooperation models is very crucial. We support raising this topic on global platform. In December last year, as already mentioned, the RLC and Caspian Sea issues were discussed at the One Water Summit in Riyadh, which was initiated by Kazakhstan and France. I hope that our joint efforts, through our joint efforts, we can safeguard closed inland water bodies worldwide, which are vital components of ecological systems. Once again, thank you for organizing this meeting, and thank you for your attention.
Mr. Rosberg, thank you very much yet again, highlighting the complex issues that we're facing with only one interesting phrase, that is the drying lakes and seas. This affects everything in our lives. I think our agenda today allows for some 5 minutes for some questions or intervention. If there is anyone from the audience who'd like to raise a point, ask a question, please raise your hand. We'll help you with the microphone. Or maybe anyone from the panelists would like to chip in and may give more comments. No? The topic is indeed very difficult, and with this I would like to go into the final closing session. I would like to the audience to do some. You would like to have a question? Please go ahead. Yeah, thank you. Introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Yakubu Haruna Zul. I'm working with the National Park Service in Nigeria. It's an opportunity for me to be part of this great event. My hope is that while you are discussing, you talk a lot of things that are global in nature. But this time around, I'm so interested in where I'm working, that's National Park, where we have a problem of lakes dying, either because of the activities around the National Park, because of the human activities, or the lakes outside the national parks are dying, and the only place people can resort to is the national parks lakes, because they can no longer have the economic importance to drive benefits out of it that are outside. The only one remaining are those ones in the parks. Then you keep having pressure, people coming into the national park, because they want to fish, They want to do a lot of economic activities. And I hope, why I'm standing, I hope that as you develop global approach to address this solution, you'll be thinking about minor issues like national parks, which is an embodiment body that houses natural resources, that provides important services to human beings. So please, note that we are coming from a national park, we are concerned. We want to see a global approach that will address even our own issue, either community-based approach or whatever. But we want to reduce the pressure on the natural resources that we have been entrusted to protect for everybody to enjoy.
Thank you very much. Very interesting and important question in terms of the value chains, right? So anyone that would like to volunteer to comment on the story of how water issues affect the national parks and the communities, and in general, the story of livelihood? Anyone?
Thank you for this intervention. Difficult to answer precisely on the situation of your national park, but you mentioned globally the question, the approach of national parks. There are different regulations about national parks, but what I think is important is to think in nexus. You mentioned the question of nexus. Right. You cannot think about water in itself. You have to think about water and energy and food and biodiversity loss and everything else. And see national parks as one part of a global puzzle. And the policy we have when we are working on national parks has to be integrated in a global approach and a global economic approach. Because I don't know exactly what is the recommendation in Nigeria, but in some countries, national parks are seen only as a preservation and conservation place where you cannot do anything. And it is seen by people living around or living in these parks as some kind of prison when they cannot do anything economically. And it is not true. It is clearly not true, but it is seen like that. And definitely, I think we have to integrate the national parks in a global development policy and seeing national parks as routes from prosperity everywhere, because your conservation is very useful to maintain some resources and to protect biodiversity. And even if you are fishermen or hunters, you need to have preservation of your biodiversity in order to continue to hunt or to fish. So don't see it as something apart, but something in a global policy. It is my comment.
Thank you very much indeed. I wish we had more time. If I may, indeed the interconnectedness is a very strong story that we need to take into account. We are not isolated. And of course, this doesn't mean that we with this panel, we end the story. We need to continue and work hard to promote the agenda further. I would like with you to give big applause to our panel participants. Thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you. We will definitely continue these discussions further, and especially I'm sure that my colleagues who will join us, please, thank you, who will join us for the closing statements. I would like to invite Ms. Francesca Bernardini, who is the Chief Transboundary Cooperation Section of UNECE. If you could share your perspectives on transboundary water cooperation and a follow-up in general. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's difficult to close an event which was so dense without repeating what was said. It's worth repeating. And indeed, we heard how much drying lakes are such a strong evidence of development beyond the planetary boundary. I mean, we see the picture of a drying lake and we know we're doing something wrong as a species on this earth. And the impact are devastating. I mean, we heard jobs, economy, population dynamic, security, stability. So that's certainly something that is, should be scaring all of us, and it's scared me to hear that this is something which is ongoing. We have more and more lake going that direction, and the lake is what we see, but the rivers are the same, the groundwater are the same, and they're all connected with other. And at the same time, we heard a lot of very important tools we have. It's a complex problem, but we have a lot of solutions, a solution that allow us to work both on the driver of the degradation and on the enabler of the resilience. And we heard green and gray infrastructure, working on water demand, which is super important. I mean, and the example of Kazakhstan on improving agriculture efficiency shows that there's a very clear way. But then we have new challenge ahead of us with demand from data center, for instance. That is something we're not working on, establishing clear standards on how to regulate water use in data center and in new water use. So we need to work also on water availability with rainwater harvesting, groundwater recharge, so that's both the side on the demand and the availability. And also throughout the continuum of the ecosystem, river, lakes, groundwater, the sea, and all the ecosystem around, we know that as soon as we move on something, all the other move, and if we don't act in an integrated manner, we're not going to achieve the result that we need to achieve. Very strong focus also, as we heard in many other events, on data, on knowledge, on scenario, on modeling. Very important to take sound decision. And also very important, we are all connected. These lakes mostly, many cases depend on transboundary river feeding them. Without transboundary water cooperation, it's going to be simply impossible. And I really like to underline again what I've been saying. I mean, a broken record sometimes. In every single meeting, we have the tool, we have the legal framework, we have the governance in UN system of the Water Convention that needs to be used, and IFAS and the cooperation in the Lake Chat Commission show how useful when you have an effective cooperation framework in place. It's possible to make progress. Also important, not only the what, the who. Water problems are beyond the water sector. We need to engage with agriculture, we need to engage with energy, we need to engage with water, with conservation, and we need to engage with communities which are affected by that and have, in many cases, the solution. But all this thing we know, right? And it's a bit also going back to the scary part, that this is not happening as quickly as it should be. And you started with this, political will. That's what we really need to have. We need a stronger understanding of the value of this ecosystem, and also an economic value, a social value. We need to have it more ingrained in policy, which is not there, and we need to elevate the understanding and the political recognition of water issue. And the Water Conference next year is a great opportunity for that. And we do not need only water people around the table to discuss that. We need to bring Minister of Finance to the conference. We need to have head of state. We need to have this discussion more collectively, because that's the impact that it has. So thanks a lot for the very good event, even if it scared me.
As we're going to an end, I would like to also invite His Excellency Mr. Mansour Shorbayev for closing remarks, please.
Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to sincerely thank everyone who participated in today's discussion. Thank you for your ideas and for sharing concrete examples. We heard perspective from governments, international organizations, and regional bodies, which made our discussion truly valuable. Today we discussed that the drying of seas and lakes is a global issue. It affects Central Asia, Africa, the Middle East, the Americas, and Europe. While the examples differ, the causes and consequences are very similar. Water is disappearing faster than we can adapt, and this impacts everything: agriculture, ecosystem, migration, health, and the resilience of entire regions. Dear colleagues, in conclusion, I would like to emphasize one point. Today we did not only talk about individual water bodies, we talked about our common future, about what the world will look like if we continue to lose water ecosystems, but also about what we can change if we act now. Our discussion today clearly showed that we have the tools, knowledge, and experience. The question is how quickly and jointly we will act. I thank each of you for your participation and your readiness to the work together. Thank you very much.
Dear colleagues, as the moderator of this event, if I may also add, since the discussions were very hot, I particularly appreciated is that we did not just list the problems, we also talked about solutions, and these solutions are realistic. I would like to highlight a few points. First, we clearly saw the need to view water not only as a natural resource, but also as an economic asset. Water security requires investment. We do not invest today in restoring water ecosystems. Tomorrow, we will have to invest in addressing the consequences in health, migration, land restoration, and infrastructure. An investment approach must become a central element of future of international efforts. Second, many proposals focus on nature-based solutions, restoring wetlands, protecting deltas, reforestation, and smart management of water ecosystems have already proven effective. These are most cost efficient than large engineering projects and provide more sustainable results. This is a path that can be scaled wherever water ecosystems are under pressure. Third, we discussed the transboundary nature of water resources. What happens in one country affects its neighbors. This is why solutions must be regional. No single country can solve this problem alone. We all understand the need for joint action. I would like to also share a concrete initiative. One of them is Bluing the Caspian Sea, a new program we are promoting for the Caspian Sea. The project focuses on enhancing monitoring of pollution, planning biodiversity protection in targeted areas of the Caspian Sea in Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, and Turkmenistan, and taking coordinated climate adaptation measures in the Caspian region. We hope this initiative will serve as an example for other regions facing similar challenges. Now on the most important point, what do we do after today's discussion? First, all proposals raised today will be compiled and reflected in recommendations from this side event. We will share them with all relevant international agencies and our partners in the region. Second, to ensure that today's dialogue does not remain a one-time discussion, Kazakhstan proposes to begin work on preparing a resolution for UNEP 8, building on the outcomes of today's UNEP 7. We believe the resolution should reflect an investment approach, systemic adaptation, nature-based solutions, and transboundary cooperation. This will help elevate the issue of drying seas and lakes in global environmental policy. Third, the conclusions from today's discussion will also feed into the preparation of the Regional Ecological Summit for Central Asia, which will be hosted in Kazakhstan, to be held in April next year, and the UN Water Conference in 2026 in the United Arab Emirates. These platforms will allow us to engage stakeholders, discuss initiatives, and agree on practical steps. These issues will be raised and registered in the recommendations after this side event. With this, I would like to also invite our good friend and colleague, Mr. Marcos Montoiro, External Relations Officer of the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, who will introduce his video, the UNCCD's video, Whispers of the RLC. This is the first time when we'll see that. Please, Mr. Marcos Montoiro, and with this, I would like to thank you for your attention. Please.
Dear friends and participants, we have heard today the voices of the governments, institutions, and international organizations. We will hear now the testimonies of the people affected by the challenges discussed at the RLC through an amazing short movie directed by UNCCD Goodwill Ambassador Ina Moja. The story of the RLC serves as a powerful warning to the world, highlighting the dangerous consequences of taking nature's abundance for granted and viewing environmental resources as limitless. This issue was highlighted not only at the UNCCD CRIC 21 held in Samarkand, but also at the last conference of the parties in Riyadh, as well as the CRIC 23 in Panama, which has just concluded. On our road to Mongolia for UNCCD COP17, the RLC serves as a reminder that there is no place on Earth immune to the effects of desertification, land degradation, and drought, which are intrinsically linked to water scarcity. We recognize the efforts of the governments of Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan to strengthen cooperation in their efforts to restore the RLC and to protect its ecosystems, to launch initiatives planting vegetation and combat the advancing of sand and dust storms. And we especially applaud the resilience and determination of the people, particularly women and girls living near the RLC. Their stories are inspiring. In the attempt to unveil some of them, it is our great honor to present for the first time Whispers of the RLC, directed by Ina Moja, Goodwill Ambassador of the UNCCD. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My colleagues, if you could switch on the video, and with this we will conclude today's session. Thank you very much, and applause to each other. Thank you.
Mama, how big is the sea?
More than half of our planet is made of water.
That's a lot. There's water everywhere?
Unfortunately, no. Can I tell you the story of a place where the sea has turned into a desert?
There's no more water?
Let me tell you. Longer than it would take us to sing a song. Maya's hands tell a story her words don't need to. Each knot in her carpets is a memory. Each pattern, a map of places that no longer exist.
Здравствуйте, добро пожаловать в Узбекистан. Спасибо, пожалуйста. Меня зовут Майя Раджапова. Я выросла и живу в Каракалпакистане. Мои родители, папа и мама, обычные люди. Папа преподавали в школе, мама занималась ковроткачеством. С помощью ковроткачества они могли давать нам, детям, высшее образование. И вот я вернулась домой к Каракалпаке и маме говорю: мамочка, давайте помогите, мы откроем с вами маленький цех, и я буду продавать наши ковры по всему миру. А если немножко рассказать, чем я занимаюсь, это ковры ручной работы. Я разрабатываю давно потерянные дизайны И женщинам нашей поселка даю сырье, даю шерсть, шелк, и они никуда не ходят, они дома делают. Каракалпаки — это, я могу сказать, это моя боль, это моя сильная боль. То, что у меня в моей памяти остались, Каракалпаки не такая была. К сожалению, Аральское море высохло. Раньше, в 70-е годы, было пионерские лагеря, Аральское море, полно было воды. Там мы отдыхали, и было много воды. Каракалпаки не такая была, она была зеленая, она была красивая. Я думаю, вот эта проблема Арала – это наша главная, большая проблема. Не только нашего народа, проблема нашей страны, проблема всего мира, я думаю. Поэтому мы искренне надеемся, что проблема Арала решится когда-то.
Mama, why did you want to see without water? That's silly.
Why? Sometimes the most profound stories are told in silence. The Aral Sea doesn't crash or roar anymore, but it whispers through the people who remember it.
Did the people make the big water go away, Mama?
Yes, people needed water for other things, so they took it away from the sea. By the time they realized what was happening, it was too late.
Oh, that makes me sad.
The Aral Sea was once the fourth largest lake in the world. Irrigation projects diverted its source rivers to grow cotton in the desert. By 1997, it had shrunk to 10% of its original size.
Мен Бекмұратова Клара, Мойнақта туылдым. Теңізіміз тауға ұрып тұратын еді. Бұлай толқынларда ішінде бақаншақлар бар еді. Бақаншақ теретін едік балалармен бірге. Сүйерден бақаншақтан көп мынандай моншақлар сіленетін еді.
Будучи ребенком, я тоже купалась когда-то в этом Аральском море. Так что запомнилось это море мне на всю жизнь. А к нам еще приезжали со всей планеты почти. Дети приезжали в лагерь, который назывался Орленок когда-то.
Арал теңізі кәдімгідей шетке ұрып сулар тұратығын еді. Кейін ала 75-76 жылдарда уже сулар мына жерден келіп уже не болып кетті, кішкентай болып кетті сулар.
Басыма жіпек орайман ай, шашымды сулап тарайман ай. Көкленімнің жолына кеше күндіз мен қарайман ай. Сүйгенімнің жолына кеше күндіз мен қарайман ай.
Менің атым Сахиб Жамал, фамилиям Шаддинова. Мойнақ районының 93 жылдан бері шығатығын Арал балықшысы газетасының бас редакторы болып жұмыс істеп жатырмын, журналистпен. Әкем өзі музыкаға қызыққан, дөретушілікке қызыққан, қосық шығарған. Бірақ әкесі балам, балықшының баласы балықшы болу керек, артистік талаптан талап болмайды деген үшін түсіп оқып атырған оқуын оқымай, дауамламай, осы Мойнақта ол уақытлары колхоз деп айтатын еді, біздер көрдік. Колхозда балықшы болып, бригад болып, папамыз жұмыс істеді, әкеміз. Әкем еслейді, ең бірінші 14 жасында әкемменен бірінші балыққа шыққан уақытта үлкен бекіре түсті дейді. Енді ол бекіре менің әкемнен үлкен құсайды да, несі, көлемі, класы. Сол уақытта әкесіне сол аға балық түсті, үлкен жүда, үлкен балық түсті деп бақырғамда, әкесі қуанып, басын шайқап, балам, әне, ауың майланды. Демек, балықшылық талапты ұстай аласаң, бұдан да көп балықларды аулайсаң еле деп, әкесі сонда біздерде жаурын қағып дейді, марапатлап қойған екен.